Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 7 of We Are Listening, which is my monthly live stream where I get to have these delightful chats, real talk conversations about mental health, well-being and life with esteemed creative guests. And this week we are very, very excited to welcome yet another esteemed creative guest. This gentleman has collaborated with people like Bastille and Rag & Bone Man, and he's an incredible artist, producer, like myself, and his name is Rationale. Hello, Rationale.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
My pleasure, man. If anyone hasn't watched this show before, it's a live stream. We've recorded it in advance, but we are online right now. So if you have any questions you want to ask us, you can put them in the chat, and we are here to reply. And a lot of people have sent in questions in advance, so we'll hopefully get through as many of them as we can. And it's an opportunity just to talk. You know, I'm SK Shlomo. I kind of first got known as being a beatboxer and a live looper and lived in this kind of whirlwind life. And when I decided to stop it to make my solo album, my world kind of came crashing down, and I've struggled a lot with my mental health. And this has been a platform for me to talk about it. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm doing it for my benefit. And I get hundreds of messages every day from people who are saying it's helped them, and that's great. But I'm doing it for me because I really like having a space where I can talk about these things. So that's all we're going to do. We're just trying to set a precedent that it's okay. It's okay to talk about whatever's going on in your mind, if it seems big or small or whatever. Like, we are listening. So hopefully we can use this as a platform to support each other and communicate and kind of set that precedent. So please participate. Please join the conversation by adding your comments and questions below, and we'll answer as many of them as we can. But I think we should get on with the show and meet this incredible human being right here. I have so much respect for this guy. I found his music by chance about, 2 or 3 years ago. It kind of popped up on one of those algorithmic playlists. And I'm quite an obsessive person. When I kind of get into a song, I obsess about it. And this time I was just like, I had to have it on. I probably had it on about 100 times in a row. And then I sent him a tweet and I was like, bro, your music's sick. And he was like, yeah, I know. And then, what was it like? No, he didn't really say that. He was really humble.
Kind of did that.
And then what was it like a few months ago, I got another tweet from you just saying, great that you're talking about mental health. And then we kind of had a chat, and we've kind of been in touch since, haven't we? And then here we are.
Yeah, it's like a speedy kind of dating.
Yeah.
It's great. Like you said, a few months ago, I was on Twitter, kind of flicking through the feed, and I'd avoided being on social media for a while because I'd realised it wasn't necessarily helping me out, and then a little bit. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was, but I knew I wasn't supposed to be on there too much. And just by chance, I was looking, and you'd said something about mental health on that particular day, and I scrolled further down your feed and noticed that you'd begun going through some times yourself. And I remember sitting in my living room and kind of going, I should just message him and just say, dude, thanks for kind of speaking about this so openly, because it's a hard thing to talk about, isn't it? I mean, the old-fashioned way is to keep your feelings bottled inside. In fact, no, that's not it, actually. I come from an African background, so my background doesn't necessarily allow for men to be speaking about their feelings or any difficulties they're experiencing. So seeing you do that, though I'm not African, just made me feel like I needed to call you or something, so I asked for your digits.
Yeah.
And we spoke within minutes, didn't we, of that message?
Yeah.
And I kind of just blurted out what I'd been going through and what I'd experienced, and talked about your experience, and you just kind of made me feel better in that moment where I was having a little bit of a panic, I think. And it was a great thing.
I'm really glad you could do it, man. I'm really glad that we could have that conversation. And then to be here is just amazing. So I'm really huge respect to you, man, because not everyone can do that. Not everyone can even admit to themselves why they're having a hard time or what's going on. It takes a lot of courage, and that courage is infectious. It honestly, my life is completely transformed since I decided to be open, and people talk to me completely differently. They look me in my eye and they tell me what's going on. They tell me their difficulties as well as their shiny exteriors, which is a lot harder because I now know about a lot more difficulties than I did before. But I'm much safer that way.
I like that. Yeah, and it's funny because I think at first, before speaking to you, I kind of felt like because of my job as a musician and as a songwriter, and I'm out there fronting this shiny image that says, I'm someone you should listen to, and the idea isn't that we have weaknesses as musicians who are out there, or anyone who puts themselves out there in the public eye. I think that's some sort of stereotype or some sort of old way of thinking to a degree.
But it's also a paradox, because if you listen to the music, right,
Yeah.
like your music,
Especially with my lyrics.
Your music's like, it's got that melancholy that's really seductive, and I think like that's probably why I was so drawn to it, actually, because it gives, like, when you find that music, that, like, when you hear it, you can actually work through some stuff, but in a really safe way, because the person singing is communicating with you what they're going through. I don't know.
Yeah.
So then there's a paradox. It's like, oh, if you're going to be a singer, you have to be all shiny and perfect, but make sure you sing about your pain, you know?
Yeah. See that pain you had when you were younger? Yeah, sing about that, but then you have a big smile on your face after the photo shoot, which is like completely confused.
Yeah.
But I think I realised I was writing some of these songs. Like I've got a song called "Prodigal Son," for example, which is
That's the one.
Yeah, perhaps the one that you loved.
That's the one I got obsessed with. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's about my father, as it were. And I remember it was one of the fastest songs I'd ever written, because
Really?
I came up with this kind of like synth line. I was like, oh, this is dope. I'm going to work on the lyric. And the first line was, I want to hold counsel with the ghost of my father. And I was just like, oh, it's a bit deep, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I just literally blurted it all out in one go.
Yeah.
And it was great, because I knew I was expressing something that I had never found a way to fully express. And the funny thing about that song was that you aren't the only person who's kind of hit me up and said, dude, this song, man, speaks to me. There are many kind of people out there, I suppose, who've not had great connections with their fathers, or never had the chance to have that relationship at all. And that's the power of music, you know. So I've had instances where I've been performing it live, and I've kind of walked off stage and had somebody try their hardest to get a hold of my sort of shirt or anything, and say, dude, just that one song, like it just got me. And you'd think a person who's able to write something like that would then be together themselves, I suppose, or at least find ways of expressing some kind of expressing stresses and angst, and just being able to relieve yourself of those stresses and such through music. But it's the opposite, because I feel as though, being a creator in the way that I am, there's just so much going on in there that sometimes there are conflicts, like a computer system. And when that conflict occurs, I literally just stop and I don't know what to do or how to create, and start to doubt my creations. Or
are you talking about during the process of making, or are you talking about like once you've made it and then you've got to sing it again? Or
during the process of making it is usually the toughest bit. After making it, I can sing it 1,000 times.
Really?
Yeah, and I feel great about it, because it's a complete thing. You know, it lives with all its flaws and kind of shiny bits too. But yeah, the connection we made through that one instance was special. Yeah, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Like, this live stream is all about kind of juggling creativity and well-being, and I think a lot of people would want to know a bit about your creative process. I definitely do, because I feel like I probably identify with it with you. We've had lots of different people on this show, and but it's really nice when we have someone who's a producer and a writer and a singer, because that's what I'm transitioning into, kind of doing with full time in my life.
I'm very well indeed, actually.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
But like some of the stuff that's come up in the past is things like self-doubt and solitude, and there's one thing that I really wanted to kind of create as a topic for this particular episode, which was criticism.
Oh, the joy, the great C word.
So we've got some questions from our audience about criticism, and the reason I wanted to do it is because I've just had a bit of a rough week with criticism, which we can talk about. But like I feel like you're already touching on it, like process and then self-doubt kind of seem to come hand in hand for a lot of songwriters and a lot of especially solo featured artists. Like, is that normal? Is that something that you just accept now, or does it kind of come and go?
I accept it. I accept that I'll never conquer it. And when I say it, I mean self-doubt, because I think they all play hand in hand. Self-doubt, criticism, process, solitude. But at the end of it all, I think we're creating something, and it's going to be out there, and it's going to get judged, right? Good, bad, you know, not everyone's going to love everything that you do, as they say. And that's easy to roll off the tongue. But then for some, me especially, I find criticism especially difficult to deal with. I don't tend to receive loads of it on the internet, the evil internet, and trolls and such and such. I've never been that kind of character. But I suppose the best place to start is the process before we get to the end product, if you want to call it that. So I write mostly alone. I spend days and trying to kind of like what I do first of all. Even if it's just the creation of a set of chords or a pattern or like it's got to feel right, like it pleases me. So I suppose that's how my writing process usually begins, with an atmosphere of some kind. And then comes the lyric for me a lot of the time. And usually the lyric will inform everything else a lot of the time too. Now, I think when I was younger, I'm 34 now, it was just easy. I used to just kind of go, this is great, cool, done, it's finished. This is kind of okay, let's go to the next one. Yeah. But now at this age, I find it tougher to write things that mean more to me. So the process follows a lengthy period of solitude. I don't enjoy creating around others much unless I've known you for a very, very long period of time and we can create that way. And with that solitude comes the self-doubt, because I think there's something about the brain and music in particular, and hearing things back at you, being played back at you for a long period of time. I always start off loving it, and many people say this, I love it, it's brilliant, I walk away, I come back and have to play it again and again. I'll go and maybe take a break after my ears are kind of, not quite used to it, and I come back and I'll be excited about it, wake up singing it and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then once I've perhaps learnt it, and absorbed it too much, the doubt just starts falling like a cascade of little voices and words that say, this is rubbish, isn't it? You shouldn't really put that bit in there. And what are you actually saying in this song? Is that even cool? And then you can open up that self-doubt by just even for one moment going onto the internet or listening to a song on the radio. It can completely blow your mind. Because in a way, as much as I tell myself that I'm creating for me and I enjoy being unique and different and I have this odd singing voice and such, you can't help but hear everything else that's going on and everything else that's successful and start to put yourself up against that. And this is before you've even finished the product. So you're not at the end of the process of actually giving it a chance to go and live. So you've got that going on. But of course, we're professionals. So you can't just give up at the first whim of any doubt at all, so you have to push through it, but it doesn't mean it goes away at all. But I've found a way personally nowadays of, this is the start, that's the finish line, get it over the line, and then a period of reflection will give you the answers. And I'm trying to work like that.
So you're trying to finish before you assess? Yeah.
So the criticism hasn't even had a chance to be a thing quite yet, but because I'm just critiquing myself at this point, which for me is the worst. I can take a troll, I can take somebody not liking something, or maybe radio not playing something, or the label, as it were, my label not necessarily enjoying it. But it's me. I'm my own worst critic. Now, the interesting thing is, once I do get that particular product, I hate saying product, but song finished, and sometimes it's not just a song; it's a podcast, it's whatever it is.
Something creative that you've made.
Yeah. So once I've made that thing and I hand it out to people, the criticism feels like something I can perhaps deal with a little bit better. Than in the process of during the process of making it. That's how I am programmed anyway.
So you'll feel like once you've shipped it, then it's like you feel a bit safer.
Yeah, because you can't change it after that. It is a representation to me of where I would have been at that particular moment in time. So I can't say, I wish I'd done this much, much better once I've committed to it. It's there. I'll hear the little things that I wish I could have done better, but it's there. I've put it out there now. And it's if anything, it's part of the evolution of how I create music or whatever it is I'm creating at that particular time.
It's fascinating how, like, when you're in the process of something, you get really zoomed in on all the details. And like, this is what happened to me, because I finished my album about 3 weeks ago, and literally on the way home I was listening to the masters, and there was one thing I was like, I probably would have changed that if I'd have noticed it or whatever. And I was like, literally, if it was 3 hours earlier and I was still in the studio, I would have been like, no, we must change this thing. It's just, the world will end if we don't. And then on the way home, I was like, well, it's too late now. So fine.
Yeah,
I actually
committed.
care. It's amazing how much your perception transforms from like actual fear, like actual, if we don't fix this, bad shit will happen to me.
Yeah, well, that's the nuts thing, isn't it? You can get very just grim with the whole process, because every decision to me during the process feels like it's a massive deal. Like if that hi-hat isn't right, then nobody's going to like this song. Or if is that subject matter rubbish? Does it sound like this song? Those are my demons. They're the ones that I have to try and squash out, and I have various ways of trying to deal with that now. I purposefully don't search through social media or listen to any other music that is anywhere near, what I'm trying to create during the time. Mm-hmm. I now have a method where I don't have my phone near me. I put it on airplane mode. I don't answer emails before a certain time. I don't listen to music in between the hours of 6 and 12 on my own, as it were. Yeah. So that when I wake up in the morning and the very first listen is, that's going to be the most informative one for me, I think. And I find having a system helps, because it lessens the chaos that can happen or occur in your head.
That's amazing. So you've developed like a whole kind of practice around it, and that's for when you're producing. That's for when you're like going through process. Yeah,
I have to, because it's a blessing and a curse being able to make music in the way that I do. I enjoy the fact that I can play instruments and make the song from start to finish. But again, it's like decision paralysis heaven, isn't it? Like there are so many different avenues you could take with a song.
Infinite options, yeah.
Yeah, and I sometimes, and perhaps on this past EP that I've just released, I kind of did allow some people to come in and do something for me, and it took some of the stress away. But I find then that although that takes some stress away, it's then replaced by the pressures of the fact that this person has to also feel like they love the song, or then if you're working with a super producer, for example, or somebody who's more acclaimed than you are, then there's a pressure to make sure that what you're doing, it warrants having them in the room. It's a game, isn't it? I don't think it ever ends. It is exhausting. Yeah. It is, but then you know what it's like, man. When you're performing a song somewhere in the middle of, I don't know, Birmingham or Scotland, or whichever country you may be in, and you have that come back. People don't necessarily care about that when it comes to music. I think people connect to, I believe anyway, that they connect to what you're saying in the song and whether or not you believe in the song. That's what I'm trying to continuously tell myself about the process now. Yeah,
amazing.
You just got to mean it.
Yeah, that's so true. Guys, if you've just tuned in, you're watching We're Listening, and I'm here with Rationale, and we are taking questions. So if you have any thoughts about what we're saying, please put them in the chat, in the comments, and we're online right now to reply. This is pre-recorded, the conversation we're having, but we're online right now and able to answer those comments. And one thing I really wanted to talk about today was criticism, right? Because I just, it's part of life, right? We all have to deal with it. Whether or not you're a creative, you're expected to listen to other people's opinions at different times in your life. But I've just noticed in my own journey that there seems to be like periodic times when people who are actually either close to me or who I look up to feel like it's time to give me a sit down and tell me some kind of unsolicited complaint about what I'm doing.
No way, really?
And I've had 2 of them this week, and it really knocks me, because like, especially when you feel like these are people who you look up to or looked up to, and I've had someone sit me down and tell me that I'm not a singer and that I should use auto-tune, and I've had another person tell me that they've been upset with me for years but they hadn't told me, and it's like,
what?
And all of this is so hard to take on, so hard to
it's a lot.
Disidentify from whatever their motivation is for needing to do that, and not a bit like to give someone a label like that, to say you're not a singer, like it's just so final. Like I just completely disagree. Like
I disagree first of all. Just patently disagree. I think if it's coming from a musician, or again, it's even for me, that would make it worse because we should be able to support each other in music, and music is something. It's a practice skill, isn't it? So to say you should use auto-tune is trying to enforce their belief on how you should do things, and regardless of whether you do or you don't, however you do it is up to you. As long as you're creating something that you're proud of, that you're putting out there, people who know you or know you're on your side should support you. And if they don't support you, they should keep their thoughts to themselves in that way, in that regard, I think anyway. But it's how you deal with it that's important. This is the thing that I'm learning. I've had an interesting year. I'll call it that. I've spent a year on my own creating much like you have done in the past couple of years, and then reached out every now and again to try and get things, to fix things that I don't know how to fix or that kind of thing. But the one thing I've learned throughout that time is that I am the master of my own destiny. Critique is important to help me to make decisions, but you have a choice as to which critique you take on board and which you reject. It's hard because sometimes it just impacts you in a way that you don't like. Of course, when it's negative, it's hard to take in, but you know your own true voice. You know what is good to you. It's about the reason that you're doing what you're doing, the reason that you're creating the music that you're creating. That should stay whole and true and put it out there under that regard. That should be enough to perhaps see you through it, because at the end of the day, they're one person. Even if it's 2 or 3 or 4.
That's it. And so there's a few things I've unpacked this quite a lot. I'm not going to lie. I did a whole therapy session about this particular comment that I had. But there's a few things that I found, actually, I was really glad it happened because it helped me unpack. But one thing I came back to, which was I was having vocal coaching a while back from a brilliant guy called Dane Chalfin. He's an amazing vocal coach.
Wow.
And I'd had some criticism back then, which didn't hit me as hard because I didn't really know the guy. But he said, dude, the only feedback you're listening to is from you. He said, have you got a recording of the show? I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, you listen to it and you can decide what work you need to do. And that, I've had that voice in my head since, that kind of positive champion voice. It's you kind of have to pick these voices up, right? Because when someone tries to knock you down, they kind of add to the pile of the negative voices. And then it's next time you're singing, it's you're not a singer, you're not a singer. And it's well, okay, hi there, Mr. Critical Voice. I've also got this guy over here who's saying,
you're amazing.
Yeah, you're telling a story. It's not about there might be some tuning issues, or there might be some confidence issues. And things might happen. But to say that you're not X, Y, or Z, or you are X, Y, or Z, it's not helpful. It's not for anyone else to say.
No, not at all. And again, I don't want to sit here and be all fluffy about it, because at the end of the day, criticism is out there because you're putting yourself out there and doing something creative. It's competitive. It's an art, and people are going to express how they feel about it. But again, it is honestly down to you how you then go and deal with that criticism. And you should be able to, should is the wrong word. It's important to try and give yourself a chance. You can't then, once you've been slammed, just say, oh, well, that's it then, everything else must be terrible. Of course it happens. I've had many instances. I've been on tour. I'll give you a couple of stories, for example. I was on tour with a band called Bastille for a long period of time. And I remember being in a situation where we'd warmed up somewhere, I think it was Milan or something, in this amazing arena. And it was the 3rd day of this particular set of days. 3 days on, 1 day off of singing. And on the 3rd day, I was just mentally done. My voice could still maybe carry everything off. And I remember entering this mode on stage while I was sound checking, thinking everyone's looking at me and nobody thinks this is great, because they were just looking at me blank-faced. That person over there's whispering to that person's ear, oh, are they saying that this is terrible? And they just think I'm awful and I shouldn't be supporting second to last, as the finals of Water before the main act comes on. All these things piling into my head that were just utter nonsense. Perhaps maybe somebody was saying something, but I had to have a talk with myself and say, but you're here because of what you've done and what you've created. This period here where you're actually performing is not going to be 100%. It's not going to be. It's physically impossible to perform perfectly throughout an entire show, I think, personally. But
unless you're a robot.
Yeah, exactly,
you
right.
want to see a robot perform. Go to the Science Museum.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, but perception is perception, isn't it? So I've had for example, let's say that Milan show, I then took some of that onto stage when I was actually then performing in front of people. And they had a great time, even though inside I was perhaps maybe dying a little bit because I kept thinking, oh, I'm not doing so well here. This isn't brilliant. But people aren't there to point at your bum note or that lyric that you chose that may not be necessarily right. They're there for the experience. You know, you're providing an experience for people, and that's what I'm always trying to tell myself. You know, to be perfect is impossible, surely.
Yeah.
You know, so why then allow these things to conquer you? You know, and sometimes it just takes a good chat with a couple of people who do the same thing. Because I had a conversation with Dan a couple of nights afterwards, Dan Smith, who's frontman of Bastille, and I said, dude, how do you do this every night and stay emotionally stable? It's just like, just tell myself that they're here to see me, then I'm not going to be absolutely perfect, but it's just fun. And it should remain being that way, you know? It's a lot of it is to do with how you treat yourself, how kind you are to yourself about what you're going through and what you're trying to achieve, I find.
That's lovely, and another thing that I found quite helpful whilst unpacking this particular criticism was to think about what their motivation is and why someone would choose to come and do that.
Yeah.
Because one other thing he said when he said that I wasn't a singer, he said, it's okay not to be a singer because I'm not a singer either. And I thought, okay, so
Loaded.
there's some beliefs here.
Yeah.
Where, you know, I don't know where they've come from, I don't know who've told you that you're not a singer, but, you know, I'd probably disagree with that. Like, I think everyone could sing, everyone can have a go, everyone
has a voice, you can sing in some kind of way, for sure.
Everyone can make progress,
Yeah.
like, you know, and I kind of thought, well, then maybe there's some other drama going on that is actually not to do
with
me.
you, yeah.
The fact that I'm getting up on stage and I'm clearly, like, because if you see my show, like, you know, I do my beatboxing and everyone's like, I've mastered
it's insane.
it. I'm sick. I can admit that. It's good.
Yeah, wicked.
But then with my singing, like, you could probably see I'm much more vulnerable with it because it's definitely newer and it's definitely something I'm finding. So, like, it isn't going to be perfect, but, like, that's still, like, maybe someone getting up on stage and doing something that's clearly difficult for them and clearly, you know, a vulnerable thing to do, reminds people of whether or not they've been able to do that themselves. And if they're not really in a place to admit that that's difficult, then it kind of spills over into dislike or distaste or discomfort.
That's the best way to think about it, I think. And sometimes even asking people to give you better critique is not such a bad thing. I hate lazy critique. You know, constructive is always the most helpful, you know? And still, it can still be very hurtful, even if it is constructive. But a friend of mine who has a completely different job. He kind of works in the city, and he's in awe of the things that I do, or that he says, "Oh, what'd you do today? Then just sit around and chew some straw and write a song, did you?" And I'm like, actually tormented about whether or not this was good enough, and thought about the amount of money that I've got in my account, and wanting to make sure that I actually have a career at the end of the day. You know, if anything, I'm quite brave, and like many musicians are, because we thrust ourselves out there in our adult lives, and we say, okay, we're gonna eat food and make money via what happens in our heads. Just
such a
think
mad
about
idea.
that. So I'm gonna make sure that what comes out this head comes out this head. I'm gonna have to make sure that a certain number of people really enjoy it, and then somebody somewhere is gonna be brave enough to give me some money.
That's a terrible business plan, bro.
It's a silly business plan. What kind of plan is that, right? You're just like relying on essentially what is something that you can't see, hear. Sorry, that you can't see, feel, touch. It's technically not tangible. So I just, when I had this conversation with him, he was almost sometimes a bit sarky about it.
Your friend in the city?
Yeah, this is my friend in the city. Apologies, yeah. But he always finishes off with a little statement about how great it is that I kept going. And I never used to understand that. It was like, I've known him since I was about 12, I think. Okay. And he used to be a musician. So it's interesting that you mentioned.
Okay,
so
there you go.
You know, he's kind of like, what'd you do today? I was in the office until 6 and had these stresses, but I finished, went back, and I have a set routine. But whenever we've had this little back and forth, he always says, you're the one who carried on. You're the one who didn't give up your dream, and it's become a business for you now, and I respect that.
So then you get this thing where other people are kind of hanging their unlived dreams onto you.
There you go.
And it's like,
yeah,
that's too much responsibility, man. I'm already trying to deal with my own dreams.
Yeah, right.
Like I can't live yours as well. Like, thanks for the support. And
Yeah.
like, thanks for believing in me. But like, if you want to live your dreams, go ahead. I'm just going to do what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean?
But it's important to remember that. It's just hard to remember that you are living your dream, the same one that you had as a little boy, or I'm not sure when it became the thing that you wanted to do and you were certain of it.
Yeah, little boy.
Yeah, and there are times in my life at this age when I wonder, like, when's somebody going to go, oh, you're a fraud. That's what it is. Oh, of course. Yeah, it's not really real. And I'm like, running back home to like try and find the nearest job center application to get a normal job or something like that. But I think if you lose that fear a little bit, it becomes, you lose the drive to a degree, surely, because it should never be easy, surely.
Yeah. Wow.
Because if it was easy, the classic saying, everyone would do it,
Wow. Yeah. I don't know. It's so difficult with creative stuff because, like, I find certain stuff really easy, and then it becomes people want you to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like the thing that you got really known for, the thing that you found quite easy, and you originally had that massive passion for. Like for me, it was the beatboxing and the live looping and all that.
Yeah.
And I ended up actually pendulling, right? So it was nearly 2 years ago that I stopped. I basically cancelled all my commitments because I was like, I want to prove I can do this. I want to make this album. I want to like become a recording artist, like people like you.
Yeah.
And I just kind of went cold turkey, right? So the last few headline shows I did, I barely did any beatboxing or looping.
No way. How did that go down with your?
So Michelle, my partner, said she heard someone go, "Has he forgotten how to do it?" Like in the audience.
No way.
But I was okay with it because I was just determined to show that like I could do it. Anyway, so this last gig that I did the other day, I was just like, it's fine. So I was like mixing it all together, bringing back some of the old stuff, and it's just so much fun to then relinquish all of this like micro control you're trying to give everything, and just like do what you're good at, do what people want to hear, and show them where you're going. Like that feels really, really good.
Well, that's interesting you should say, actually, because I suppose it's like an artist coming back with a different style or a different sound.
You hear it all the time, play the old stuff.
Yeah,
like, don't you?
I mean, everyone's going to get it. Imagine what it's like being Coldplay, or imagine what it's like being the Rolling Stones, or, everyone wants to hear the hits, but we're not always in a position, or we're not always in that lovely, neat box in their heads of when the first time they heard that song. Or the first time they took that drive with their partner that they ended up marrying and so forth. You're a human being and you're constantly evolving. And I think it's important to just always trust your feelings and that voice in your head that says, keep, striving for something better, something that challenges you. Because otherwise there's no point, is there really?
Well, I guess there's two things. Like the first thing is that people are really connected to one moment in time with your music, and they want to recreate that when they come to see you live, and that's a beautiful thing. And if you can give that to them, that's great. But also, if you only did what you've done in the past, and there's no opportunity to create new experiences like that, so you've got to feed each other. Yeah, completely. What made me feel inspired to just like relax my strict rules about what I was doing was I sat on a radio show with Chesney Hawk. Do you remember Chesney Hawk?
Yeah, Chesney Hawk.
Right.
He's a bad man. What are you talking about? What? Seriously?
He's a bad man. Like, and he obviously got known for The One and Only, which is this huge, huge hit. And he's been a prolific writer since for himself and for other people. He's created loads of amazing stuff. But everyone wants him to sing that song. Yeah. And the presenter was like, "Will you sing it?" And he went, "Of course I will." And he sang it graciously and beautifully, and I beatboxed, and it was brilliant.
Oh, sick, yeah.
And it made me just think, whoa, why am I being such a snob about it? Like, do you know what I mean?
Dude, that's exactly it. It's funny because you start to live in your own head, don't you? You start to kind of go, oh yeah, but I just want to do this and I just want to do that. You forget the fact that you created that moment for people. So you've almost made a deal with them, like, I'm going to give you this moment again and again because this is something you've supported me in it. So it's only right that they want to hear it again. And it's important. I say this, but I will still be caught in a changing room somewhere or dressing room somewhere going, do we have to play Fast Lane again? It's so basic.
Oh, really?
It's so this and it's so
is it Fast Lane for you? Is that your...
Oh, yeah, man. Probably the most streamed track of mine or whatever it is you want to call it. That's like the this age speaking quite clearly, but my most known track to a degree. And I remember making it in a bedroom somewhere while I was juggling 3 jobs, and it was great then, but I've moved on so much with my sound palette, my kind of production technique.
Your sophistication has gone through the roof.
It's like I'm far more sophisticated now. I'm not really. I'm just, if anything, I'm just older and my hairline is receding at an alarming rate. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. But I need to remember, whenever I jump on stage and do perform that song, it's like, this is why you start to support me. You're going to listen to everything else as well. And if I make something as good that makes you feel that way, bonus.
But it's time travel, isn't it? Like, music is time travel. Like, you must have that when you're listening to a song and it just pulls you back in time to that, whatever it was that you connected with.
Dude, old demos.
Oh, really?
Do you know those old demos that you might listen to, even your old beatboxing tapes or something like that?
Oh, God.
And you're like, what was I doing? That kick is so not, it's actually, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is that you might do. But they are just snapshots of where you were or have been at that particular point in time. You know, and this conversation is aging by the moment, isn't it? We'll look back at this in a year's time and go, I wish I'd spoken a bit clearer on this bit. But that's the joy of what it is that we do. Not many other people get to do that. My friend who sits in the office won't remember the file he, completed for the, Jenkins. I don't know who Jenkins is. Just making names up here, but it's special. It's you have to try and respect that for yourself a little bit, I think.
That's really beautiful, man. This is so lovely to be talking to Rationale here, episode 7 of We Are Listening.
Nice save.
Guys, I've got some questions here from our lovely audience who, I just love you guys. Every month I'm getting these beautiful messages and really thoughtful questions, and I've got a few here for Rationale, which I think would be lovely to go through. There's one here that was on Instagram from Melissa Joyfully. It's quite a long one, so I'm going to read it.
Oh, cool.
How do the views of the outside world / people bring you up or down, and why? We are social beings, yet when we have no one that is bringing us up or down, don't we then have to rely on our own foundation? When we find our own inner strength, then the criticism and appreciation are simply waves in the ocean, clouds passing by, not to be rejected or attached to, simply pointers of where we might look to continue our own spiritual or inner growth. What do you guys think? So it's like...
break that down.
Finding it in yourself, right? Because if you are stable and you have your foundation of support, self-care, self-love, and you know that whatever it is you feel insecure about, you know deep down you've got it, then people can come at you and...
they're going to get nothing.
Right? So I guess that's when you kind of get like 2 types of criticism. I think there's 2 types of criticism. There's the one where you go, what do you think of this? And they say, I think X, Y, and Z. And you're like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought... Oh, that's wicked, cool. And there's one kind of feedback. Yeah. And there's one where you go, what do you think of this? And they go, how about X, Y, Z? And you're like, no, I know what I want out of this. Thanks for helping me realise that I know what I want out of this. Yeah. You know what I mean? Do you feel that too?
I feel that completely. I have one person who who's a mentor. His name's Mark Crew. The person who actually encouraged me to get back into music. I've been signed to a major label twice. The first time I got dropped and I decided this is not for me. It's not what I imagined. And the second time round, as Rationale, I played him songs and he gave me the best kind of critique possible. And it was that kind of helpful, why don't you try this? And if you don't like it, it's fair enough, we'll just go and try and do something else. And I find, I've written a song recently called Collecting People. And that's what we're doing essentially in life, isn't it? You're collecting a set of people who are good for you, and then you reject the ones that are bad for you. Same thing goes for girlfriends, same thing goes for friends.
Children, no, I'm joking.
Yeah. Kind of stuck with that. You can't do anything about them, trust me. I've just come back from my son's nativity, like literally today as well. So it was funny watching him on stage, messing up lines, and I was like, we practiced that. But, I'm digressing here a little bit, but it's about collecting people who give you the constructive stuff that's good for you. I think towards the end of that question there was something about accepting that they're like clouds and such, and and such that they float through.
Waves on the ocean, clouds passing by. So the criticisms just become part of life.
Of course they do. But on a Sunday evening when you've got something going on Monday that you need to play, in a meeting to management or whatever it is, it's not as easy to remember that kind of almost spiritual way of thinking, because again, we are just human beings. It's about, for me, always being able to rely on certain people that can help you to break things down a little bit, and a support network is important in anything that anyone does, whether it's this creative process that we are lucky and blessed to go through. That's why big companies, for example, have a hierarchy and infrastructure to make sure things go through a process. But the same way you should work in a family. You know, it's all community. Dude, I can't watch an episode of like Dynasty, David Attenborough's Dynasty, where they're going, "That's exactly us." Like, it's for example, like a pride of animals, or of a pride of lions, I should say, rather. There's a system there, it's a support network, and
hierarchy.
You know, it's critique exists in everything that we do, and I just think at the end of the day, it's having a good network that will allow you to think like that to a degree. Perhaps that's just my thoughts anyway.
I think that's lovely, and like, you know, especially with like social media, we kind of talk on this show quite a lot about social media and about how that empowers the whole world to have an opinion, and sometimes it's difficult because they're saying difficult things about you, and sometimes it's difficult because they're not saying anything about you, or like all of this, and we all have now a culture of like sharing every day and you are getting feedback every day because you're getting likes or comments, or you're not, and that puts like an extra strain on your day, right?
Oh, massively. Dude, imagine this like thing, right? Imagine being free of all those items. Social media, even opinions from peers, and being somebody who's able to sit in a room and create the thing that you create to completion, and then just putting it out there and then moving on to the next thing. I think all the greats that I know of worked in a very similar way, and the times that they fell down were when they, ironically enough, became more successful, and there were more people feeding into the system of what it is that they did. I know a chap called Egg White, who's a producer, who has an amazing family. I don't know him personally, but I've heard countless stories. Has his studio in the basement, doesn't answer a single email. I think his wife is his manager, and he just gets all these amazing acts to come in and just shut off from all the nonsense, create and leave, and that's it. There's no social media to get involved. I love social media because it helps my music reach so many places, but at the same time, it has been the worst thing for me when it comes to creating. I think I could have been far more creative without it, because because on an average day, if I wake up in the morning like many people do, and the second or third thing that I do is scroll through or look at that wonderful purple kind of like tag with surprise that it could be, you know, it could be a wonderful business opportunity, it could be a nice comment, you know, that already influences my day or how I'm going to process things, and it's awful for that. The times that I've created the best things have been when I've just kind of gone into the room, ignored it, totally forgotten the thing that I'm supposed to be doing, and that's how music used to be. Imagine being in 1932 or 1940 and you've just, who are you? I don't know. In fact, let's go to a good era. You're Jimi Hendrix.
Okay.
You've just woken up, you've had a wild party, and all you've got is just your guitar, the studio that you've been hired out for, and you just get to go in there and rehearse and play, and that's it. And
you don't get distracted.
Yeah. So it's a massive distraction sometimes, you know?
I've noticed it's, for me, like, social media is actually quite a good flag of how I'm doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
man, it's dangerous territory, that is.
So, like... Yeah,
so go and hit me, how do you mean?
Well, when I just got this second wave of criticism in 1 week, and I was just like, I had to sit and just be like, I had to admit that I was really struggling with my mental health, you know, which I'm much more versed in now. I can kind of say, yeah, I'm not okay right now. But it made me notice that I had been reaching for the social media a lot throughout the day, and you know, you get the screen time update on your phone.
Oh, dude, the worst thing ever, right? Yeah.
It's like 5.5 hours on Instagram this week, and I was just like,
5.5 hours?
I could have spent that on making songs or playing with my children or
but you're also
sleeping.
yeah. But you're running a business, so it's you know, you've got it's give and take, isn't it?
Okay, so then that was about 4 days ago, and then maybe 5 days ago, and then since then I was just like, right, I'm going back to my rules, which I've just been ignoring for a little while, which are I don't go on social media until the evening, and I have a set time when I'm going to do my posts, and I'm going to interact with all my people who've reached out to me in the day, get it done. I love it, it's really good fun, it's really positive, really emotionally healthy, and then park it again. And it's like, so that I'm not waking up first thing in the morning and just being like, Am I good enough? Am I good enough? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're not saying I'm good enough.
Yeah.
Oh, all these other people are much better than me.
Yeah.
Like, just don't have that
Why do I even
distress.
follow them? This is
Yeah.
annoying. Dude, I've considered many a time just unfollowing every single person that's on there because it really and truly, it's not always helpful. But it's subconsciously, I think it is, because it sometimes spurs you on and inspires you to do things.
Yeah, it's like anything, it's a balance, right?
Yeah, but that routine's great. I love that. I love the idea of that.
That is my routine, but I haven't been doing it for quite a while. And like I say, that then becomes my little, okay, I've just noticed that I must be not okay because I've been breaking all my rules or whatever.
But why did you break out of the rules?
It happens gradually. It's like,
Yeah.
I'll just this, or just quickly. That's why I noticed that. So that the words "just quickly" become a real flag now. It's like, I'll just quickly, blah 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 blah, before I do. That's normally procrastination, isn't it? That's
Massively.
Fear of getting it wrong. So instead of getting it wrong, I'll just quickly reply to this email or see. My main one is, I'll just check my emails. I don't actually deal with any of the stuff in there. Like, hundreds of emails I haven't dealt with.
Please.
I'll just see if there's anything in there.
Yeah.
Because there might be something important.
Something that's really great and it's going to make me feel great about myself.
Exactly. It's looking for gratification.
But on the flip, though, right? When you do receive that amazing email that says, "Oh, would you like to do this? We're going to offer you bags of gold for this." I'm like, "Oh, great!" Yeah, no, that doesn't happen for me, but it's just, I feel like sometimes I'm searching for that one, the one that says, "You're good enough. You're so good at this thing that we're going to put your song on this TV program," and you're like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah.
You know. But I don't think it's healthy to continuously check, like you're saying. So your system is actually quite valid.
It's better.
Yeah.
But it's hard to actually stick
Put
to.
into practice, yeah.
But this is why this questions thing's really good because,
yeah.
like when I was like I said, I was really glad that I had those two difficult experiences because they made me notice that I wasn't okay, and it made me notice that I'd stopped doing a lot of the things that helped me be okay. And then when I do those things, so I'll ask you in a minute what helps you, but I find meditation, yoga, exercise, and noticing my thoughts, like CBT kind of stuff, really helps me. And if I build that into my day, I have that foundation, and then I know I'm okay. I know I'm enough, and I know I'm singing or whatever it is I'm insecure about. I know it's growing and it's on a journey. Yeah. But if someone was to criticise me, I'd probably cope with it a lot better if I'd been doing all that stuff.
Oh, totally, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Do you have similar things that you find help you cope?
Dude, if I wasn't exercising, I think I'd implode.
You've really got into. I remember you saying this when I spoke to you the first time. You've really got into
saying you're
fitness.
not seeing my hot body on my Instagram feed?
Every day, man. It's the main thing I do when I wake up. Look at his body.
Just gotta get him on. His body's great. No, it started off in January of this year as like I really want to get fit. I came off tour. And I'd eaten every snack.
Too many dirty burgers.
Oh, mate, yeah. I was just wobbling around the shop, and as a dad, you start to kind of go, "Oh man, no, I want to feel young again." And then at the same time, I was in this situation where I was continuously writing on my own in a room, and there was a stretch of about a month. I remember just getting into a feedback loop of not knowing when things were good and feeling the pressure of my record company wanting to keep continuity, on the go, and I just started to not feel great in the mornings. Little bad habits at Greg's here, that little whiskey at night, even sometimes during the day I'd have a nice little topple up, oh, it's fine, I just have a little something, and became normality. I was like, this is bad. So just nearly ran to the gym, and I was like, just sign me up, I want to just come in here and do some stuff. Got into an app and did some stuff at home, and then I got a PT, the personal trainer, because I know myself. I hate exercise. I don't understand why anyone finds pleasure in running around. Like anyone who says, "Let's go for a run," I'm like, well, why you want us to be friends? You want to go and run and have your lungs burning. When is that pleasurable at all in the slightest? It's only pleasurable at the end when you've finished and the endorphins kick in, right? You're like, oh, brilliant. Oh, this is so nice. But screw the pain between, right? Because it hurts. So I needed someone to be mushing me on. And my personal trainer is amazing. Yeah, I found a friend in her. And he gave me that balance at the beginning of the day. I've got my automatic free hit, which is oh, my body's great. I'm walking out the showers. I'm like, da, 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 da. And then I would sit down and create things. And for the first few hours of my day, I was fine. That's a nice foundation to have. The other coping mechanism was making sure that I saw my friends more. I started the podcast with my friends to make sure that if anything, it's just an excuse for us all to get together and talk nonsense continuously during the day because, you know, as personally as I've gotten older, I've realised, you know, I've got a family and I can't always do the things that I'd like to, and sometimes your friends start to take a bit of a backseat, and you know, you can't really organise the same things that you do, and I realised I just need to keep that friendship cycle going and to staple these things as important things in my life. Friends, exercise for me. There are more to find. I've not found them quite yet.
They sound like really staple ones, man. Like the friendship one and fun. Like there's one thing that because I've been in with this trauma therapy for a little while now, and one thing she often says is, "Are you having any fun? Are you having fun right here and there?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, man, like my children make me fall off the chair with laughter on a pretty much daily basis, and my friends and my work, like, and I think that's a really important thing that you can really lose track of is are you making space for fun in your life, like with your podcast and seeing your friends and just like you say, talking nonsense, like it's that childlike thing that it's a need. It's not just like an optional thing. It's absolutely necessary for us to laugh and feel silly and playful as a fundamental part of coping with day-to-day life. Yeah,
totally. I mean, I've been through a period recently, and we spoke about this, where I basically lost sight of those things. So the podcast had taken a break because we needed to get together and start the new season and get, you know, with anything that's creative, you need to refine it. And of course then I took that away, and the exercise continues, but it then started to feel like I was heading for these targets and I had to eat these certain number of times, and
that becomes stressful.
And that becomes stressful. I'm like, oh no, I still kept going, don't get me wrong, but it was like I have to force myself to go. Then my friends weren't around as much, or then my release was coming up, and there was a movement in the release date 3 times. I think it happened. We had a situation occur where something was supposed to come out and it didn't, and that just threw me off kilter. And then there's the stress of the record company wanting to make sure that, you know, you're doing really well, and all that stuff happened, and it just went poof, back into this mire of awful thinking. And the thing that pulled me out was a friend just saying, take some time away. You need to go away. You need to go and reset and make sure that you get those mantras back in check again, you know. And that's that. It's never perfect. There's no fix to feeling low or being a person who's, you know, suspect to always falling into pits of self-doubt and just a low kind of way of thinking, you know. But you just have to have those things around you and be able to change with them, because we'd all love to be like, oh, I've got my friends, got my thing, and that's it, it's there. But sometimes your friends aren't there. Sometimes you can't rely on that person because they're not around, you know. So
it's got to come from
within. Once you teach yourself, I think it's things get easier.
That's why I think that's a lovely question. So thank you, Melissa Joyfully, for that. Guys, if you just tuned in, We're Listening is our monthly live stream where we talk about well-being and creativity and mental health. And I'm joined with this wonderful human being, Rationale, and some of you have sent in some lovely questions. So our topic this month is criticism. Let me see, because some of these we've already touched on. Has there been anything/an incident that has influenced the way in which you deal with criticism, constructive or otherwise? Has there been any moments in your life where it's changed how you would kind of perceive criticism?
I think it would be, for me as a musician, it's reading reports back about music that I've released.
Okay,
so
like reviews.
Yeah. I call them that loosely. I think sometimes they're just like excuses for people to use words in a way that is just clever for the purpose of their publication to a degree. So I tend to not read them anymore, but I've realised the reason that I stopped reading them is because I learned that what they say doesn't really matter to me, because it doesn't change what I was doing them during the process anymore. And it doesn't, if anything, a publication saying something about me or anyone kind of giving me a bad review is sometimes like clickbait, because unfortunately, even I do it. Like I woke up this morning and Theresa May's, you know, might be booted out of her job, and I'm like, oh, brilliant. I literally just went, oh, right, I'm going to sit down now. This is interesting, isn't it? And it's not because I'm like, oh, poor Theresa May, or I wonder what's going to happen with the country. It's just like, it's drama, isn't it? It's exciting. And it's just, why? Why do I need to do that? Because at the end of it, it's a negative energy, really, and it's not helpful in any sense, you know? So I've learned to always tell myself to just, before I dig into things that are quite clearly negative, is that going to have a positive effect on my day?
Yeah.
You know, it's a very hippie-ish way of thinking, but I think in this day and age, where you've got constant information, constant kind of like opinions and feelings and such being thrown at you. Do you remember that day when O2 went down recently?
Yeah.
And I remember I was going through like a session,
Yeah.
and I was like writing songs for like someone like massive. I was really like quite nervous about it anyway. You know, they're gonna find out I'm a fraud, that kind of thing. And I had to download a map to get to where I was getting to on my phone from my house, because I had Wi-Fi there, obviously. And I forgot to do the return journey. I got out of the session, I was like, I don't know how to get back home. And I'm not about to go back to that house and knock and say, you know, can I use your Wi-Fi to like download it?
I can't get home.
Yeah, right?
Help me.
So exactly, literally that. So it's too embarrassing. So I thought, all right, fine, I'm going to try and work this out. I bought an A to Z, dude. I don't know, like, how long it's been. This is like I didn't
You
know
went
A to Z.
old school.
Yeah. Looked at it. But for that period of time, I then went to a separate kind of, it was like a meeting. I didn't scroll once. I didn't kind of like have the ability to, you know, listen to my own music, for example, because my phone wasn't downloading from the cloud.
Yeah.
It was great.
A little holiday from information.
Yeah. So I've realised a little balance is good for you sometimes. You know? It's just funny with critique, isn't it? You know?
Yeah,
It's that way.
for sure. Dude, that takes some discipline that you don't read your reviews. I am nowhere near on that level of discipline yet. Like,
Oh, really? You read them?
oh, wow, just
Man.
desperate to know.
What people like, but let me ask you: who these people? Are they all people you respect, and the reviews that you're reading? Do you know?
Probably on a different level to what you're getting. Like, I'm just getting like these little blogs here and there, and like.
Yeah, that's too. We're all still searching for blogs because you know, on the ground, those are the people that are, you know, going to push things forward. But
I mean, I'm not going to lie. Even the ones which have been really positive, I still will come away with some kind of sour taste.
oh, dude, yeah, I get that. So I always like that, right? So I would. My thing is, all this great stuff is happening, but there'll be one little thing in there, and I'm like, I'm going to hone in on that. Just forget all this good stuff. I'm just going to hone in on that thing. And if you have that kind of mentality, it is important to train yourself to think differently and to focus on the good. But then I figured out I can't always guarantee that. So it's out there. That person's opinion is not going to change it. It's either going to help me to sell more records, help more people find out about me and come to a show, or it's not. That's okay.
Yeah.
I still have this thing that I made.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that because you still. There's a purity in that that's really beautiful that no one can really touch.
Yeah, and
No
also
one
it's just the fact that I'm a big wuss and I just cannot read them. Cannot.
Oh, that was a lovely question, which I forgot to say. It's from Stuart Bramford. Thank you, Stuart. Ewan Bagshaw says, what's the most difficult form of criticism to receive?
For me, it's not a single, is it? For me.
God, do you get that a lot?
Of course. So I'll write a bunch of songs for me or for other people. And I'll be convinced in the room that it's brilliant. And then I'll agonise over it. If it's for me, I'll definitely wait a month before I send it and tweak things that I need tweaking. And come back expecting you're going to go, no, do you think it's great? Manager, label. And then I get that, it's good, but it's not a single, is it? And I started plotting my whole thing around that. I'm like, yeah, then we'll do this first song here, and then we'll do this thing. I still can't cope with it.
But like, that's so frustrating. You want to make music from your heart. You want to tell your story. You don't want to be like, every note you write, well, is that note a single? Like,
It's literally,
what about that word?
It's like that, though. And I think it's a part of the... I always said to my friends as a joke, I'm like, I did sell my soul to the devil by signing in like a major deal. Because, you know, if I was on my own or if I was like with an independent, it would be so much easier. But really and truly, no, it wouldn't, because you're still out there searching for something that can make you, it can make you feel good, but also you want it to be popular so people can come along and appreciate it. And I'm not going to lie, I've got bills to pay, man. I've got like, I want to be successful. I want to make money that will allow me to put food on my table.
Of course.
It's as simple as that. So that's the worst critique I can receive from other people who are involved in what it is that I do as a professional musician. But that's the game, you know? The hardest part is believing. that what you do is good and still pushing it through.
But then it's like, well, okay, there's good, and then there's going to be an international smash hit, like...
Yeah. But who knows that?
Yeah, right.
Who could have told you... So let's judge things by today's standards, right?
Okay.
Streams. Okay, so
Okay.
My most streamed song as an artist is Fast Lane. It has no chorus. It's 2 minutes and 17 seconds long. And it's been synced, and this is not me yanking my chain, but it's been synced on many things. Justin Timberlake and Pharrell Williams thought it was the best thing since sliced bread when it came out.
Yeah.
And that's I couldn't have told you that.
No.
The person, if I played that to a label, they probably would have told me, "I'll go back and just do this." And
it's not single.
really, that's the thing. And so, in music terms, at the very least, I think it's about what you believe and how much you believe in what you're doing in that particular song or set of songs at that time. People can hear that, subject matter and such and such. So.
I've really enjoyed this process of finishing my album because there's songs in there which I just know they're not singles. Like there's one, just the last track of the album is just like solo piano, and it's just like what
and that's
came
fair,
out.
isn't it? Yeah,
that's really lovely just to be able to indulge that and just be like, this is for me, and if other people like it, great.
But man, that leads on to something. Everything that you do is like a little foundation for maybe the biggest thing that you'll ever do. So I find those little self-indulgent, piano sections where will maybe teach you a progression that you didn't know you could perhaps particularly even do, and then it will trigger something in your mind that would help you to write that next song. Yeah. So I try to not discard ideas when I'm working in my process, or that 4-minute ballad that I will never get through. Then
they're stepping stones, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the term. Yeah. So.
Lovely. Thank you so much for all these questions, guys. I have one here from Morgan Gleave, who says, how does criticism make you feel, and how do you react to it?
So, it varies. At times, I'm just like, whatever. Yeah. Other times, it made me want to knock the entire process down and start again. And it really varies. It depends on which guy I'm being that day sometimes. And we've spoken about this throughout this whole conversation. At times I've said, you've got to listen to your inner voice, and you've got to listen to you. But, that can happen, and then you'd be sitting there and going, maybe they were right. Maybe that bit isn't so hot, and I should change the whole thing. Again, you have to, personally, I lean on my own voice that says, just get it from start point to finish. Because you can't critique something that isn't finished, musically speaking. And I know many sort of musicians and friends who are producers who have folders upon folders of 1 minute and 30-second songs that never get finished. Yeah, I've got mine. Yeah, right? Because once somebody knocks it down, or you, even most of the time yourself, you're done, that's it. I've got a song that's like, basically like Barry Manilow, like just this like super snap finger thing, I'm going to finish this weekend. Nice. But I think it's ridiculous. I think it's not my best work to a degree, but there's no perspective without complete works. So that's really inspiring to hear. Yeah, I don't think there is anyway. I've got so many songs that I was really, really into, or even I listen back to them and I'm like, no, I'm into that. But then it's like, you end up prioritising something else for whatever the reasons are. Yeah. It's like you can't finish every song you start, because then you wouldn't breathe or eat. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, true. Don't get me wrong. I definitely dump some things. When something isn't right and it's not feeling good. It's also knowing when to stop it. When to stop that creative idea and move on to the next thing. Sometimes I work in ways in which I'll batch, create bits and bobs, and I'll walk away, make a cup of tea, come back, and the thing that speaks to me the most is the thing that I'll work on. But there is that point, isn't there, when you get to that verse chorus and you've put in a bit more time and you're just unsure of where it's going to. And that's when I'm like, you've committed, get it to the end, make it a 3.5 or 7-minute piece, whatever it is that you think it's supposed to be. Yeah. And then at least you have something to pull perspective on. That said. Yeah. Love it. Oh, guys, thank you so much for all these wonderful questions. Like, if there's anyone who has other thoughts that they want to share or ask us about, you can put them in the comments right now, and we will be replying to them in real time. And I just think it's really important that people can sit down and have a conversation and just feel kind of empowered to do that. Like, it's still really helpful for me to just sit with someone
like you and just hear how similar struggles are. Do you know what I mean? And like, it's difficult when you're an artist because you put yourself into your work. Like when someone criticises your report that you've done, if you work in a job, then it's the report they've criticised. Whereas if someone criticises you,
yeah, do you know what? That's so key.
Yeah.
That's so true. I think that's what makes it difficult, isn't it? Because everything feels like a slight on your personality.
you can get really mixed up between your work and yourself.
What do you think of the process then of actually not getting too emotionally connected to what it is that you're doing? So all the best producers apparently say this, and I've heard this in many.
Stay detached.
Yeah, just stay detached. If you think it's great and you love it, brilliant, you love it and you think it's brilliant, but there's always the next one that you do you think you'd be able to do that?
I think that's really helpful. Like it's harder to do in practice than it is in theory.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to do it of late.
But to try and get that momentum is really, really good. So it's like, I just finished my album and I'm like, I had a really exciting moment last week where I opened up my phone and I wrote album 2 and I started writing some lyrics and I was just like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Well, this is the thing. It's complete, isn't it?
Right.
All, warts and woes and all the rest of it. It's complete. It's done. There's your perspective.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't do track 10 again because that was just me being really, this way and that way. But it'd be interesting with album 2 if you were able to almost detach from loving even to the MIDI that you've played in, or the way that you scooped that little section out of the EQ or all the build and all that kind of stuff, and look at it as a piece of work that, comparatively speaking with others that you've done, you can almost, it's all ones and zeros, isn't it? That would be amazing to do, but it's almost spitting in the face of what music is, isn't it? Think about it.
Yeah, like detachment versus like staying completely obsessed with it. Like it's another thing you have to balance, right? But like,
yeah,
a friend of mine who's just pumped out an album every year since I've known him, he's like, I just stay really detached. I pretty much hate them all. I just get them out, stay in the moment with them, and then as soon as they're done, I don't listen to them again, and that's how I cope. But he's someone who got really stung on his first. He'd like put all of his love and soul into this first ever album, and then the label kind of botched it, and they accidentally released it or something, and there wasn't any build up to it, and then it kind of flopped, and then he didn't get to live the dream with it. So I think he got stung. Yeah. So now he's protective of his attachment, and maybe he might have gone too far. Who knows?
Yeah,
How do you get that balance? You just got to keep going and keep playing. But like, he's managed it. He's made loads of stuff that people really connect with. Like, whereas it's taken me all this time to make my first album. Like, so.
Has it taken you all this time though? Or have you had to have those experiences that you've lived in order to get to the place where you can create that music? Because you probably wouldn't have been able to in the same way. Maybe if you could physically make the one, the drums and the kicks and the basses and such. But what you're speaking about, from what I've heard, is all life experiences. And dude, right. I don't think it stops, man. And like, I'm blessed and lucky enough to have worked with some amazing people. Like, right down, like I spent 5 days with Katy Perry, like, and we wrote some like really cool stuff. And what I learned from her was that no matter how big you are, you still have the exact same doubts and also high hopes for your works, because that's what we do, But she wouldn't have been able to get to the point where she's the star that she is without having the days where every record company would have rejected her countless number of times. Sounds so cliche, doesn't it? Like, I was really rejected and then somebody signed me up. But there's the pursuit of that holy grail that gives you those moments to write about, I think.
I love it, man. It's been really great to talk about all these things. And if people want to know more about what you're doing, so your EP just came out, didn't it?
Yes, my High Hopes EP just came out. Please go and buy it or stream it so I can put food on my table, please. But it's out right now, and you can, if you want to, go listen to it on Spotify. Just type in Rationale, or follow me on Instagram. I am Rationale. And it's been a pleasure talking to you too. I really enjoyed it. Big
really
time.
Lovely. That's cool. Well, guys, please do go and check out Rationale's work. And are you going to be doing any shows or anything in the next little while? Or
yes, all TBC. So next year is planned full-on shows. For the rest of this year, I'll be releasing more and more snippets of video content. So just make sure you're tuned into my Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. I am Rationale.
Amazing. Guys, massive round of applause for this gentleman here. Rationale, you've been an absolute star, and it's really lovely to just hear about your journey. And I love you, man. I love everything you're doing. So,
ditto, dude. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yay. Thanks for watching, guys. And if you have enjoyed this, please share it. Hit the share button right now, and kind of if you could just write a little bit about why you think this has been good for you, it can help spread the word and help beat the algorithm so other people can actually see what we're doing. But thank you again so much for tuning in. We're listening. Episode 7 is done, and we'll see you again. If you want to watch the previous episodes, go to skshlomo.com/wearelistening, where you'll see guests like Jason Mraz and Bill Bailey and Andy Osho and Codeline and lots of other people getting real about their own stuff and owning it and empowering themselves to be even better humans than they were before, which we'd love it if you could do too. Just use the hashtag #WeAreListening, spread your love, spread yourself, and we'll all do it together. Be beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time. Bye, 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 bye.
Bye, bye.